Good afternoon and welcome to the end of week market review for Friday, March 8th, 2013. We're going to go over a few things here today. First off, we're going to take a look at the market news. We just want to see what's been going on in the markets throughout the week. This will include taking a look at some economic reports. We're then going to go ahead and take a look at the S&P 500 as well as the Toronto Stock Exchange. While we're looking at these two exchanges, we're going to be looking at both daily and weekly charts. We'll be doing that on both the short term and long term. We'll then go ahead and take a look at the volatility indicator and take a look at some of our great picks. So we can see that the markets ended up with a very good week. Mainly gains. Everything ended up closing in the green. The Dow Jones ended up going up 2.18% from last week's close, with the S&P 500 up 2.17% from last week's close. All in all, that means that we have been up for 9 out of the 10 weeks that we've experienced. If you take a look at oil, you're going to see that oil is up 1.03% from last week's close. This puts it to $91.81 per barrel. We can see that silver is up 1.33% from last week's close, putting it to $28.96 per ounce. Gold is up. It's up 0.11% from last week's close. This puts it to $1,577 per ounce. And finally, we can see that our US-Canadian pair is also up 0.12%. If you look at the economic reports, you're going to see the one report that stands out to us the most from March 7th was the jobless reports. We ended up coming in with 340,000 as opposed to the forecasted 355,000. Because of the decrease in jobless reports, we ended up having some nice positive trading both today and yesterday. Right now, we're looking at the S&P 500 on the daily chart. You're going to notice a few things here. First off, you're going to notice just how much growth we've had throughout this last week. Every day that we've been in the market has pretty much been higher than the last, until the last 4 days pushed us well within our new cycle high. This is definitely a lot better than what we would have seen last week, where the markets were looking at declines. We can see that there is going to be some support around 1530 if the markets do decide to pull back. And there's also going to be some slow overhead resistance that we can see in place that dates back to the beginning of January. We don't need to be too concerned with this resistance though, because it is rising trend lines. And every day the markets are there, that line gets a little bit higher. Now the MACD is rising bullish, and with the black line over top of the blue line. All in all, these are great conditions to be in, though we are looking at a point where the S&P 500 is definitely getting overbought. If you take a look at the S&P 500 on a weekly chart, you're going to see the huge gap up that we had last week and the gains that we had this week. All in all, we're closing well above the ascending triangle that we've seen throughout the last couple of weeks here. All in all, not a bad thing to see right now. Here we are looking at the S&P 500 on a larger scale. You're going to see that we're looking at 5 years worth of data. Now it's pretty difficult to see where we are right here. I do have the mouse pointed to it. What's important though is to see the types of gains that we've been having since the beginning of 2009. You can see that the gains have pretty much been consistent right across the board. There definitely have been some weeks and months where we had declines, but all in all, we've been working ourselves higher and higher. Definitely well within the 5-year high. If we do have any pullbacks over the next couple weeks or couple months, we really don't need to be that concerned because, again, we've certainly had declines since 2009. None of them have lasted for very long. Right now we're taking a look at the TSX on its daily chart. You're going to notice that it's trading quite comfortably between the upper and lower trend lines here. Right now we're looking for some overhead resistance where we're likely going to be turning around and coming back down to support. There's a very good chance that if it does go down to support, that it'll work itself down to around 12,600. Now, although the MACD is rising bullish, and with the black line over top of the blue line, we know that this resistance has been difficult to break. If we can break above it, that'll certainly be a good, strong sign. On this chart right now, we're looking at the TSX on a weekly chart. We're looking at about a year's worth of data. You can see how we closed up above that cycle high that dates back to February, and how, although today was slow, or this most recent week was slow, we have been able to hold our ground. Zooming back to 5 years worth of data, you can see just how strong the last several months have been. Unfortunately, though, we've got quite a bit of overhead resistance from previous cycle highs that date all the way back to 2008, 2009. So although we're having a good time right now, we're definitely not looking like we're nearly as strong as the S&P 500 has been. Right now we're looking at the volatility indicator. You're going to see that it's currently sitting at 12.63. This puts it down 18.3% from last week's close. Certainly a large decline. Right now it's ranging between 12 and 14, which we've seen has been the consistency between January and February. The few times that it was trading between 14 and 16 is exactly what we would have seen back throughout September and October. We even saw it throughout November and a little bit of December. So we really don't need to be too concerned with what we see. It seems that the volatility indicator can certainly get up to highs of 18 without too much concern. Obviously, if it starts to get above that, we would need to be more concerned with what's going on. If you have any questions, make sure that you either email us or phone us at the email address and phone number which is listed on the screen. We always make sure to get back to our customers within 24 hours. At this time here, we'd like to remind you guys that there is some inherited danger with trading. So always make sure that whenever you're trading, you're adhering to your predetermined trading rules. And obviously, any trade decisions that you make are your own, so always trade with caution. This has been the end of week market review for Friday, March 8th, 2013. Ciao for now.